everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. The story to me, the topic of the day, right now, this second, in the world that we traverse, kind of college football, college basketball, the topic of the day is what the heck is going on at USC? When we last talked about USC, well, it was bad. You can't sugarcoat it. This was a team that came in with playoff aspirations, national championship aspirations, with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and projected #1 pick in the NFL draft, Caleb Williams. There was no playoff. There was no, major bowl game. There's nothing, as the Trojans finished 7-5, 1-5 down the stretch. And listen, there's no way to sugarcoat it. They were the most disappointing team in college football. The defense absolutely fell apart. Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator, was fired. And you kind of thought after that, okay, maybe the dust will settle and everything will be okay. Just a few weeks ago, they obviously stole D'Anton Lynn, the defensive coordinator from UCLA. So they hadn't played in a while. They get a new defensive coordinator, and you sit there and say, you know what? Maybe Lincoln Riley has stemmed the tide. Maybe things aren't quite as bad as everybody was making it out to be, until this week when we realized, things are still really, really bad, really, really not right at USC. Unless you've been living under a rock, or if you don't follow the portal and all this stuff, USC is hemorrhaging not only players, but marquee players over the last couple of days. On Sunday, we find out that Malachi Nelson, a former 5-star quarterback, many believed he was the heir apparent to Caleb Williams, comes in, red shirts behind Caleb Williams, plays in 2024. He announces he is entering the portal. Then on Monday, it's one thing to lose a quarterback who's never played meaningful snaps, but two of your best defenders off of a bad defense, guys that you really can't afford to lose. Damani Jackson, a cornerback that was rated as the #1 corner in the class of 2022, was the biggest high school recruit that Lincoln Riley signed in his first class. He announces he's leaving. Tackett Curtis, a star linebacker, emerging star, announces he's leaving. And then, oh, by the way, on Tuesday, Corey Foreman, who was signed by the previous staff but was an elite 5-star recruit, announces he is leaving as well. So in total, 3 former 5-stars in the last 3 days have announced they are leaving USC. And oh, by the way, on top of that, maybe your best rising defensive star. And so, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is not good at USC. What is going on? And then bluntly, is Lincoln Riley the guy to figure this out? Let's go ahead and dive in. So first of all, let me say this. It's not good. I'm not going to pretend it's good. That's not what I'm going to do over the next couple minutes. What I will say, though, is that bluntly, I think it's the old thing that I say on this show all the time. 2 things in life can be true. It's certainly not good. But what I will also say is I do think elements of it have been a little bit overblown in terms of just how bad it is. So the part that I think has been overblown is the loss of Malachi Nelson, okay? Again, former 5-star, was the #1, number 2, 3, 4, whatever he was, quarterback in last year's class, was supposed to be the heir apparent to Arch Manning. He announces that he's leaving. Everybody freaks out. That's the one that I'll sort of defend Lincoln Riley on. One, it's because Lincoln Riley, you can criticize him for whatever, but he is the quarterback whisperer. He has had 3 Heisman Trophy winners, a 4th finalist if you include Jalen Hurts in that 1 year at Oklahoma. The guy knows quarterbacks. And more importantly than that, not only does Lincoln Riley know quarterbacks, Lincoln Riley is not afraid to play a talented quarterback if they are good enough early in their careers. It didn't work out for Spencer Rattler, but Spencer Rattler was the heir apparent after Jalen Hurts left. He got his chance as a redshirt freshman. The following year, when it didn't work out, Spencer Rattler gets benched for a 5-star freshman named Caleb Williams. And so I just bring it up because Lincoln Riley has a history of playing young quarterbacks if they're good enough when they're ready. And so the fact that Malachi Nelson leaves with another piece of information tells me that he probably wasn't ready to be the quarterback next year. What is that piece of information? Well, the piece of information is bluntly, since even before the transfer portal officially opened, Lincoln Riley has been flying all over the country to see recruits and visit quarterbacks, specifically transfer quarterbacks, in case I'm not making myself clear here. Since before the portal opened, he's been flying around visiting transfer quarterbacks. Remember, the portal opens, but before that, graduate players and also guys on teams that where the coach left, you could visit those players. And even before the portal opened, Lincoln Riley was on a plane to see Will Howard, the Kansas State quarterback. I think it was the first week of December, right around the time of those conference championship games. And so that right there told me, wait a second now. There was the heir apparent on campus right now. So if that kid was ready, Lincoln Riley would not be traveling all over the country. Now, you could say Lincoln Riley misevaluated him. You could say he was never the right guy. But what I don't blame Lincoln Riley for is if this kid isn't ready, if he's not the guy and you have to go get another quarterback, then that's what you got to do. And so as I'm recording, it isn't official yet, but Will Howard is expected to be the next USC quarterback. He is expected to transfer in. By the fact, let me Google that really quick, make sure nothing has changed here in the last couple of minutes because it feels like it could happen at any moment. But Will Howard is expected to transfer in. And there's another element to this as well. The other element is as follows. Malachi Nelson put out his first list of schools that are interested in him. And let's just say it's not exactly the type of list that you would expect from a former five-star quarterback. Among the schools, according to On3, that are in contention to get Malachi Nelson, you have TCU. You have, on top of that, you have Houston. You have Tulane. You have South Carolina. Let me ask you a question. Does TCU and Houston and Tulane, do those sound like the kind of teams that you're going to be heartbroken if you lose your quarterback if you're at USC? No. And so you add in the fact that the portal guys Lincoln Riley is being aggressive with the schools that are recruiting Malachi Nelson. It's not a knock on the kid. It's not that he's a bad person. I always like to say that. I'm not picking on him. But those two things make me believe that he was not going to be the quarterback next year. And so go ahead, let him go. Where I do think there is concern if you're a USC fan, the defensive guys are bailing ship, okay? And the first reaction, everyone's going to say, well, you know, the defense stunk and how good could they be anyway and blah, 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 and this and that. Well, according to the recruiting rankings, they were really good. Damani Jackson was the #1 rated cornerback in the high school class of 2022. He chose USC over Alabama and Michigan. And I bring that up to say that he has clearly not gotten developed while at USC. I think, to me, this is very interesting. I'll say this. It's kind of weird. I saw him during a USC game this year. I was watching a USC game on TV, and I saw him on the field, and I said, I wonder what it's like to be that kid. You could have gone to Alabama. You could have gone to Michigan. You end up going to USC. You're a SoCal kid, stay home, play in front of mom and dad. Well, now you're in year 2. You haven't been developed the way that you wanted to be. Your team's not winning. The defense isn't good. And I remember sitting there saying, like, I wonder what that kid is thinking right now. And so I bring it up because him entering the portal, what that says to me is that this was a kid, a 5-star coming out of high school. When you're a 5-star, it means that you think you're going to be a 3 and done. It means that you think, I'm going to come to college, I'm going to ball out by my sophomore year, I'm going to be really good by my junior year, I'm going to be a star by my 4th year, I'm going pro, and I'm going to be a first rounder. And so the fact that he is leaving right now tells me that he feels like he is not being developed. Now, I'm sure some of it maybe is on him, whatever. But the fact that Alabama and Michigan have already emerged as potential suitors, that leads me to believe that, the talent is still there. It just isn't being unlocked by the USC coaching staff. I know there's a new coaching staff coming in, but that's a pretty darn good sign. If Nick Saban is interested in you, it means you're still a pretty good football player no matter what's happened at USC. Tackett Curtis is kind of the same thing. Linebacker from Louisiana. Now, maybe it's a little different for him, kind of came across country as a freshman, but he had like 44 tackles as a true freshman this past year. And so to lose him hurts. And I think to lose him with Damani Jackson, it speaks to something else that I just mentioned. It speaks to elite defensive players do not feel like they are being developed at USC. Now, listen, to be clear, it's obvious they're not. I mean, USC's defense was abysmal. But the bottom line is, you hope going into this offseason with a new defensive coaching staff, you can sell those kids on, look, guys, I know it's been bad. I know last year was embarrassing, but stick with us. We have a plan. We're going to make it work. Now, to the credit of the kids, listen, one thing I've learned doing this as long as I have, kids are smarter than they ever were before. They don't fall for the nonsense, and it was going to be a tough sell to keep them, but it speaks to me that those kids are not buying the message. And so overall, what I would just say is, listen, I think it's going to be an interesting couple months for Lincoln Riley. I'm not ready to completely bail ship on him yet for a few reasons. One, I do like all the defensive additions on the defensive coaching staff. As I mentioned, D'Anton Lynn, the defensive coordinator who completely changed UCLA's defense in 1 year, he comes over. Remember, Matt Entz, the North Dakota State head coach, is coming in as the linebackers coach. So by all accounts, they've really upgraded the defensive staff. And I give Lincoln Riley credit. He said kind of in his post, season press conference after the season ended, he said point blank, we got to change everything around here. And it starts with the way we recruit, with the way we practice. And that's something we've talked about on this show. It's not a very big secret in college football circles that USC is kind of a country club type program. I've talked to many people who have the ability to watch practices. Us in the media, we only get to watch a little bit here and there. But I've talked to people who've been in practice who are just like, it's the softest practice I've ever seen. And so I give credit to Lincoln Riley for being willing to change, for being willing to change how they practice, how they prepare, all that good stuff. And I give him credit for shaking up the coaching staff. And I also do think once they get the quarterback settled, I think the offense will be pretty good. I know the offense had its ups and downs this year. You can't blame Caleb Williams, though, and the offense was still pretty good. Will Howard isn't dynamic as Caleb Williams is, but he is going to be able to put up numbers with Lincoln Riley as his head coach. And so I'm excited to see what's next. But I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I didn't even mention as we approach National Signing Day here, right now USC is the 19th ranked class in the country. There's just a lot not going on right now. So we'll see what happens. I'm not quite as down because I like the defensive hires. I like some of the offensive personnel. But man, oh man, it is crazy how quickly things can change in college football, in recruiting, and in perception of your program. USC is not in a good spot right now.